Hey fiber folk, welcome to Black Cat Yarn Crafts. I'm Rachel, a spinner, weaver, knitter, crocheter, dyer, lover of all fibery things. Today we're going to talk about skirting a sheep or skirting a fleece. This past spring I was invited to Powers Farm Market, which is a family-owned farm market in kind of my area, my old area, sort of. They are now a bit over an hour away from me, but growing up, my grandparents and my parents took us there every single year for their awesome fall spectacular. They have 3 giant teepees that they set up in October with hundreds of carved pumpkins inside, and they change them out all the time to keep them fresh, and it's just absolutely so cool, so gorgeous. I always love going there and being in the pitch black in the teepees, looking up at the pumpkins that are mounted all the way, like from floor to ceiling, and the giant ones and the little ones as well. They also have hay rides. They have kind of a not so spooky one during the daytime, which is really great for the family. In the evening, they have a more spooky one. And then they also have their farm market inside where you can get a bunch of fresh produce and goodies, local honey, all of those kinds of things. And they have a petting zoo area with a bunch of farm animals. Now that includes alpacas and a wide variety of breeds of sheep. I never knew that in the spring they have something called the Ba Fest, which I believe is kind of a newer addition to their offerings. And at this, they have a sheep shearing event so people can see the sheep being sheared. Well, when I went in the fall, we got chatting about a handmade item I wore, and my husband mentioned that I spun, and they were so excited and asked if I would come and demonstrate spinning at the event so that families could see that process of what happens with the wool after it's sheared. I was so excited, and of course I said yes right away, and I was so stoked and I was looking forward to it. Well, it got even better because they told me that because they only have a small handful of animals, they don't sell that fiber, and they're like, we don't know what to do with it, so would you like it for free? I was like, is that even a freaking question? Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. And I didn't know I was also getting the alpaca fiber until a few days before I went, and they're like, oh, well, we happen to shear the alpaca, this week, and we're doing the sheep on the weekend. We didn't know, would that be something you'd even want? Like, we're not quite sure. We just have it bagged up, and if you don't want it, we're just gonna, toss it or something. And I was like, hold the phone. Leave it. Yes, 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 I want the alpaca. I will spin the alpaca. So I ended up going home with, I believe, 6 alpaca fleeces, and I fit so many bags. I'll put a picture here for you guys of the sheep fleece into my Jeep. I put the seat down, and we literally had it stacked from the back all the way to the back of my front seats as much as I could, and there were a couple bags I couldn't fit in there. So I have countless pounds. I filled up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these really giant totes. 2 of them have all of the alpaca, and then the rest are from the sheep. And there are 2 fleeces in each of these bags that I'm doing. So I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 10 sheep fleece that I have to skirt. So this is definitely going to be a fun adventure. Now keep in mind that these sheep were not raised for their fleece. They actually didn't even know the breeds that they have, so I'm going to go back another time and get some pictures of the sheep. They had them all, kind of ready and tucked away for the event, so I didn't really get to see them, and then we were packing everything up, and then they were all tucked in the corner when I left. So I want to go back once they're kind of starting to grow their fleece a little bit. Maybe in the fall I'll do that, take some pictures, and then I will be able to look up what types of sheep that they had, because they had an assortment of them, which is really cool because I've gotten quite a variety of fiber from the sheep. They were also not shorn on a clean ground. So if they were shearing sheep and selling it for fiber, they would be doing this on like a nice clean surface. And we had rain as well, really, really bad rain a few days before. So the sheep got a bit dirty, and some of the fleece that I've been going through and skirting, unfortunately some of it was just way too full of poo, or just full of so much veggie matter that it's just really not worth my time to clean it out, especially given how much fleece I have. So if it was going to be a really big battle, I just took it out and I put it in the compost pile. So I've had quite a bit of really great stuff. But skirting a fleece is something I've never done before. So I watched Jillian Eve, her channel, and she had her husband build a skirting table when she was also gifted free fleece from a farmer. So we watched this. I gave my husband the directions. He worked on it and made this for me. It's awesome. It's completely collapsible. I'll put some pictures of this in here, and then I will put a link to Jillian's blog post and also the video where she talks about this, so you guys can check that out. Absolutely adore her, love her channel, and it was super motivating, and I happened to see that before this happened, which just worked out perfect, and I was like, yes, let's take it. Yes, I know what to do. When you buy a fleece, you want to pay attention if it's been skirted or not, because if you're paying by weight, you're going to pay a lot for stuff that you're going to end up having to take out. There's going to be a lot of poopy bits that need to be removed, usually around the neck area and the tops of the legs where it kind of reaches up to the torso. There'll be fiber you're going to remove. Some sheep do have fiber that is slightly different from like the neck area to the body, and that won't be something you're going to want to mix in with the rest of your fiber if you want it to be very uniform. I'm going to lay one of these fleece out on here. We'll take a look. I will show you the types of bits and bobs that I will be removing, and we can have some fun kind of guessing what sheep breeds all of these are until I'm able to go back in the fall and see the sheep with their lovely coats back on. Whenever you're skirting a sheep, you want to make sure that you have gloves on. You are dealing with some poopy bits in here, so you want to make sure that you're keeping yourself nice and clean and safe from anything that may be stuck into the fleece. The sheep looks absolutely massive on the skirting table. You do have to remember that this wasn't a giant sheep, but once the fleece is off, it can grow, look that much bigger. So you do want to be mindful of that when you're thinking about space. If you don't have a skirting table, you could do this on top of some junky sheets that you don't care about, but I think it's best if you can do this outside, weather permitting. My husband is allergic to hay and things like that, so this definitely had to be done outside. So you can see here that we are at the poopy back end of the sheep. So you'll see all of these poopy bits that this will have to be removed. You can also see this sheep has a bunch of different colors in their fiber, and we have some different types of fiber in this sheep too, which is really interesting. So we have, kind of more of these whiter locks here. We have these much crimpier gray locks down here. And then we have, if you look by where all the limbs would be, so we have, the butt, one of the legs, another one of the legs. It has these darker patches around the face and leg areas where you can see kind of down there. So what I'll do is I'm going to go through all of this poopy stuff will come off, and all of this can be repurposed in the compost bin. Sheep poop is like a cold manure, so it can go directly in, where like my chickens, their droppings are hot, so those need to sit for a while before I can use that as compost in the garden. So after removing all of the poopy bits, I will then go through and look for areas that maybe have kind of felted or matted a little bit. Kind of like some of these sections here, maybe a little bit too matted, I'll have to take a look. Or sections that have a lot of veggie matter in there. Again, these fleeces, I got them for free, and I have 10 of them, so I'm not going to keep fiber that I'm really going to have to kill myself to process and have it not be fun, because I have such a large amount, and anything that I'm not keeping will be repurposed in the compost pile for the garden. So nothing is going to go to waste. This is all of the bits that had poop in them, or if it was kind of questionable. Again, like I said, we had some really bad rain leading up to this torrential rains, so some of it may just be maybe some thick mud that got into the fleece, but if it was at all questionable, it just went. So again, keep in mind, like, the poop in here is really heavy in a lot of parts. So if this was a fleece that you were paying for, this would be all waste that you wouldn't be able to use that you were paying for by weight. So again, something to keep in mind if you're buying a fleece that is skirted or not skirted, it's really good to know. So let's take a quick look at some of the varieties of colors and crimps that I found just within this one fleece here. You can see that we have some pretty long staple lengths here, and obviously we got some different colors. There are some kind of grays and things in here too. You will notice the discoloration that are on these locks here, and this is actually a form of a bacteria, so this unfortunately is probably going to remain stained. We'll have to see how much of it comes out when it's washed. So that would be something to look for in a fleece, to know if it has this staining, that if it is that bacteria stain, that it may not come out. However, this could just be some of the natural oil from the sheep. So we'll see how much of this will come out when I wash it. So I'll take in a couple of these as little sample pieces. I'll wash these samples, and then I'll put these on the outside of the bag so I'll know what is inside of that one fleece. Now, one great thing here is I noticed that, kind of doing this test here, that it's actually really strong fiber, and that's absolutely freaking fantastic. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect, so this is great. The fleece has a lot of strength. There are unfortunately some areas on the fleece which have been really matted and compacted, so some of it is not going to be savable for use. Like the tips of some of the dark are a bit felted, but because the rest of it is looking pretty good, what I might do is save that and then just trim that little bit off of the top, and then I still have quite a bit left. So I think I'm going to kind of separate this out into bits that are good and pieces that I would want to trim off to save the rest of it if just the tip is felted. And if the whole thing is felted, it will go in the compost pile. As you can see on the table here, I tried to divide it up by kind of colors, and if it kind of had like that matching staple length and texture. So we have quite a variety in here. This is the waist, and again, I was being really picky with the waist because I want this to be fun. If I buy a fleece, I buy one with very little veggie matter because I don't want to fight with it. I want it to be fun, and that's not fun to me. But also because of my husband's allergies, I don't want to be, after washing, combing out and having that veggie matter come out on the floor, in the air. That would not be good for him. Something really cool about the skirting table is because there's the chicken wire on there, a lot of the second cuts will actually fall through the table, as you can see here. And then you would also look for the second cuts while you're skirting your sheep as well, or skirting your fleece, and you'll want to take out those second cuts. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought there were a lot of parts that were felted, but they were actually just compacted a bit from the lanolin and being stored in the bags really tight. So yay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And once I kind of just took a look and flicked it apart with my hand, we're in business. So I was able to save a lot more of this than I thought I was going to. Well, I got this baby broken down just in time for it to start to rain, so perfect timing. The girls have definitely been very curious watching what I'm doing, and they said if you want to see me work on the rest of these fleece and go from the skirting process through processing, spinning, maybe dyeing, and then who knows, maybe we'll weave, knit, crochet. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but if you want to see that process, hit that like and subscribe button and join me on this journey. And let me know down below, have you ever skirted a fleece before? Is it something you're interested in trying? Do you have any questions? Let me know. Bye, have some fiber fun and pet a cat or toss some cracked corn to a chicken.